Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Healer's Corner. We have with us tonight Larry. Larry is a certified hypnotherapist, as is Maria. So it might be a lot of them talking with you guys tonight about hypnosis and past life regressions and the benefits of that. Maria, how did you want to get started with Larry in this conversation?
What got you interested into hypnosis, Larry?
Well, my path when I was on the police department years years ago, back in the 80s and 90s, I my daughter was just born, so this would have been 1991, and my son was already born. He was in the nursery, and we moved him downstairs to his own bedroom, and my daughter was now in the nursery. And almost instantaneously, I was overwhelmed with a fear of a fire, that there was going to be a fire in the house and I wasn't going to be able to get to my son. And it was so bad that it would keep me awake. I would run through the house all the time, checking smoke detectors, making sure nothing was uh, going to cause a fire. And that lasted for several weeks. I had a friend who was a psychic medium and astrologer. She told me that she thought by doing a past life regression with a lady who's a hypnotherapist, that may help me. So at this point, I was willing to try anything. So I remember sitting in her chair and just closing my eyes and coming up with this story of owning a plantation back in 1860 in Savannah, Georgia. And it was the late summer, early fall of 1860 when myself and my slave master went into town to a rally for freedom for the slaves. When we came back in, as we entered the plantation, we noticed that the main house was ablaze, and both myself and my slave master went running up the stairs through the door, heard my wife, my two children, a boy and a girl, at the top of the stairs. We all tried to get them out, and all five of us perished in the fire. And it just seemed like a really interesting story, and it just seemed like I made it up, and it was, just very fanciful. But that night and every night after that, the fear was gone. I no longer had that fear. It it actually went to the opposite. I had to make sure I checked the batteries in my smoke detectors, because just being able to relive that kind of took that behavior away. And through the years that followed, I decided I wanted to know more about hypnosis. And as I started researching the hypnosis, I decided it was time to get trained. In 2000, I became certified by Personal Growth Hypnosis, the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapists Association. And in 2001, I was certified by the National Guild of Hypnotists as a clinical hypnotherapist. Along with that, I went to McKinney, Texas for forensic hypnosis, went out to California for past life regression, and spirit depossession hypnosis out in Maine with Irene Hickman. So that's kind of my journey into the hypnosis world in a nutshell.
So, Maria, what got you started into hypnosis?
Oh, this has been going on since 1999. I took a silver, and I thought I was just getting into meditation. It wasn't just meditation. There was a whole lot of tools I learned. But the one thing was it was part meditation and part hypnosis. Some people, when you go into meditation, you go into in a trance. Because I did that, I was able to look at every single, I was presented, look at a problem and look at all your options. So I always was trained to look outside the box. And from then on, I went to other venues and modalities, but it was actually the shaman. And actually, I was actually regressed in a hypnosis state also. And this was back in the mid-90s. When I came out of it, I could not walk. I remember the death scene. I remember how I died. I remember every single aspect of it. It was just overwhelming for me. But it was actually the shaman class when we did the soul journey is when I wanted to really look into this more. And I got certified to be a clinical hypnotherapist. And I wasn't even looking to get certified in it. I just wanted to understand how the mind works and how it holds memory of something that happened in the past. And I got certified in it, and it wasn't my intention. And then I started looking at more into past life because clinical hypnotherapy, Larry, they talk to you about the clinical part of it.
Mhm.
But I also was putting in what I learned from the shaman class when we did the soul journey pieces, when we did what I learned from Silva when we went into deep meditation states. So that's how I looked into the spiritual part of it. I was trained to be a clinical hypnotherapist, but I also combined all the other training that I have so I could do past life regression.
Well, yeah, and I find it interesting when you mention that about using the gifts, because being a psychic medium, I I'm very in tune with my spirit guides, and I've been able to use my spirit guides to tap into the spirit guides of my clients and really get to the root of the problem. And so I find the spirituality piece combined with the hypnosis really works well. So it just speaks to the shaman part for you, how we're
Mhm.
able to take these tools, these spiritual tools, and add to the hypnosis and really get the best bang for the buck, so to speak.
If you want to go into a little where you says your theory on reincarnation and the role of past lives.
Okay. I think the part you were talking about was my my theory on death, but on the theory of for me, I believe I was raised Catholic, so I didn't believe in reincarnation. Through my spiritual journey, I had to really rethink all of the teachings and all of my beliefs and really open myself up to all the possibilities. And through my journey, this is my theory. I believe that we live many lives. We come from a source. And if you're looking from the religious side, the source is the pure, bright, powerful energy. And when we incarnate, we split from that, and our energy is dimmed, and we live many lives building that energy back to being one like the source. So we live many lifetimes so that we can learn, grow, and build our energy back so we could go back home and not have to come through the reincarnation path again. At that point, we can stay on the other side and continue working with our other spirits that we're bound with to help them grow. I believe we have a band of spirits that we go life to life with. We change roles. Your mother may be your boyfriend or your husband in the next life. Your best friend may be your enemy in a past life or a future life. I believe that when we're all sitting down with the council of elders and going over the big picture, we all know how we need to fit not only in our role or our life, but how we're going to help others on their life plan. And they're doing the same with us. What's your take, Maria?
That's so you're talking, if I'm not mistaken, soul contract within different souls and different beings.
Yes.
And I do believe in that too. I do believe that we do switch roles in different lifetime to understand what it is to be a mother to who was my daughter in this life, or what it is to be a grandmother to my son, or even let's take it further, what it is to be a grandmother to my grandmother.
Right.
You know, I think there are lessons. I don't call it karma. I believe it's lessons, and we all agree to be a part of that lesson, whether to witness it or whether to be actually there in a smaller circle content of it.
Yes,
So
we're all together working for the greater good of each other to help each other
mhm.
learn, grow, and make the most of this each incarnation.
Which is interesting because when I was regressed in a past life, I did see my children in that life, but my daughter was my son and my son was my daughter. They
Hmm.
switched roles in that life, which that's not the role that they have in this life. So I did see that, and I also did see my husband in that life too. You know, and it wasn't a life that I picked. I was very unhappy. It was the prearranged type of life, and I was very unhappy with that.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that kind of filled in a lot of things with me and him at during that time, because it was a phase in our life where we weren't connecting. We were just having a lot of misunderstanding, and that kind of made sense when I was regressed, and I got some information off of that.
So, Larry, you mentioned how we are in this present lifetime a piece of like the greater overseeing God spirit, right? And we're down here learning. So this kind of goes into that theory of, since we all are a piece of spirit, I am you, you are me, we are all the same greater being. Um, that could also imply your spirit guides are just really you, in a sense that it is spirit still talking to himself or herself itself while going through this.
Yes, I believe my spirit guides are they're connected to me and to others that are close to me because we come from the same source. So we all share that same spiritual bond, that same energy.
Mhm.
But they're able to see things from the other side, because on the other side we're really brave. Trust me, if I would have known what this life had entailed, I wouldn't have set it up this way. But when we're setting it up, we're like, oh yeah, piece of cake, we could do this, we could do that, and we're going to go through and we're going to do all this stuff. And then as soon as you take that first breath and your conscious mind takes over, you don't remember anything, but you have the spirit guides on the other side to kind of keep you on a path and keep spoon feeding you what you need to keep moving forward so that you don't lose your way. Now, do we are we successful at every task? Do we learn every lesson? No, but that's part of, at the end of the life, I believe our life review shows us what we've succeeded, where we failed, what's moving forward in our next life, the people we've hurt, the people we've helped. It's all part of that karmic connection that helps us understand, the goods and the bads of this incarnation, and what we need to take with us. Because I believe if you don't reach the result, or you don't learn the lesson in this life, if you sidestep it and this incarnation ends, that lesson's going to be replayed in the next life.
Now, let's get into your take on death, because I want to be shocked. And I don't want to see
Okay.
what Maria thinks of it as well, because the whole overreaching topic tonight is past lives and being able to see that. But so that means obviously we have died in the previous life, and that's
Yeah.
how we can get the regression. So, what is your take on that death before they're
Well,
brought here now?
you can't, without birth and without death, you can't have reincarnation. It's the life has to start somewhere, it has to end somewhere. Since I've been on the spiritual path, I view death completely different than most people. I don't see death as the end. I see death as a transition. I like to equate death as the graduation or the moment where we're liberated, and we no longer have to be in this body going through what we're going through, but we graduated to the next level where we could start working on the next cycle of our incarnation. I know spirits are around us. I talk to my father, I talk to my grandmother, I talk to many spirits, and I know they're here when we need them. They're here to talk to us. So I know they're there. They're just not in the physical. So for me, when somebody dies, I mourn the loss of the physical touch, the physical interaction, but I don't mourn their passing because I know they're still here energetically with me. So I know I feel like they've just graduated to a higher level. They've just been liberated from this burden. So for me, that's kind of my take on death. I see Maria's smiling.
Yeah,
All right, Maria, spill it,
yeah,
Maria.
yeah. Um, that's going into the spiritual path. I do agree with you, Larry. I don't see death as an ending. Yes, I will mourn the person because I miss the physical. I miss the physical, the hugs, the talks. Um, I mean, I still talk to my dearly departed loved ones, and I know they're always around me. Sometimes I wish they don't bother me when I'm sleeping, but they are there, and I know I can talk to them. I know I can call on them. I know they're here, and they're always present when I need them. I mourn the physical. I mourn the hugs. Most anything is the hugs is I mourn, or their funny little ways of doing things or saying things. That's what I mourn. I don't mourn the fact that they have left this world. I know that, for instance, some of my family members, I knew they're better now than when they were in the physical. I knew what some of them were suffering from. I knew that the body was holding things in there that they just didn't know how to let go. And now that they're in pure spirit, they don't have to feel the pain. They don't have to suffer that pain. So to me, death is never ending. And some people, like, I know I had a few family members who were like, you're not crying. And I said, no, because this is how I see it. She is there. She is in a better place right now. She is not suffering. She's not living the day to day. I mean, there's some family members I knew that they were like, they're surprised they woke up. It's like, darn, I'm here. I wish I could go someplace else. But yeah, I do agree with you, Larry, on that.
Now,
Yeah,
since
I don't. It's sad because I watch, and I'm not gonna. I'm not talking down on anybody. Everybody's got the right to mourn someone's passing, whatever way they feel is right for them. I try to help people look at the good, the memories, and what we've gained, the positives. I mean, for me, I don't like funerals. I love celebrations of life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because they're diabolically different. To me, a funeral is mourning the loss of someone who's never coming back and you're never going to see again. And to me, that's really sad. A celebration of life is being grateful that this person was in your life, whether it be for a day or 100 years, and what they've given you and what you've been able to give to them, knowing that they've moved on to a much happier, healthier place, and that we're going to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
now, since you're both mediums and can touch into past life and hypnotherapy, have you had guides, be it yours or your clients, give information about your clients' past lives? Like, are they able to see that for you?
I have.
Yes.
I've had several readings that I've gone into, and I would automatically bring in something pertaining to a past life, whether it be what's your connection with Ireland? There was a gentleman that came in, and I said, I feel this really strong connection with Ireland, and uh, he didn't understand what that was. But 2 weeks later, he came back in the store, and he said when he traced back his ancestry, that ancestry.com, he came back and he has a huge Irish uh, um, lineage on his I think it was his father's side, and that that whole lineage was what was bringing in problems with him, because he had problems with anger, he had problems with drinking, he had, there was a lot of problems, and he kind of equated that with the Irish upbringing and some of the customs that the family did. So yeah, I've had that happen spontaneous, and I've had other people come to me for a past life reading. Although, well, we'll get into the ethics in a
Well,
little bit.
yeah, I was gonna say I was waiting for a good, to be like, now that we're going into the ethics, and like if the guides are mentioning it, that's probably a good sign that maybe the
Yeah,
client needs it. So we can hop into the do's and don'ts. So
yeah. Well, for me, I don't believe, I've never really talked to Maria, so I don't know what her beliefs are. I don't believe that past lives are something that we should be dabbling in unless there's an absolute need to do so. I don't believe it's recreational. I don't believe that there's any reason to know about the past life unless there's a profound reason. Like for me, it was that fear of fire, and I didn't understand it. And I needed to understand where this was coming from so I could overcome the fear and move forward. Okay, to me, that's a good reason to go back and understand the past life. I get people all the time that will come in and say, I'm just curious. And to me, I turn away more people on past lives than I actually do past lives, because spiritually, if you know things are coming, if you understand what's coming and you don't want to face it, you're going to sidestep it, and that's going to change your life's path. And I don't believe that's my role or anybody's role to stymie somebody's growth pattern by giving them um, the information that's going to allow them to see what's coming and how to avoid it, if that makes sense.
well, that might like tangent then what is the point of the psychic reading?
What do you mean?
So you were saying that you don't want to like alter somebody's path by telling them what's coming. I can just know that some of our, friends listening in would be like, well, then what's the point of a psychic reading if knowing what's going to happen? So, like, what would be the difference from what you just said versus being able to get a psychic reading?
So to me, psychic reading is in the moment, and it's um, past life is more ingrained. It's going back into Akashic records and learning about um, the purpose of the life, and opening up to see what lessons are coming forward. For the psychic reading, that's more in the moment, dealing with what's going on, or helping people kind of get an idea of what's the best path in the moment to help them with their choice. Because really, life is about free will. It's about you making the choice to do what's best for you. Okay, so in the psychic readings, we're able to give people a little bit of insight as to what's coming, so to speak, what the spirits are saying, what the cards are saying, however we get those messages. And like if they want to change jobs, if they're looking for a relationship, we're able to kind of give them a guidance of in the moment. But past lives is more about changing altering the life path. Like the gentleman that came in with the Irish ancestry, his big issue was that he was really having a hard time with the alcohol and anger management, and he had no idea where the anger management came from. And understanding that lineage, all of a sudden, he started that anger management just kind of subsided for him. It was almost like a light switch going on and saying, okay, this is where it's coming from. Okay. And when he knew that, he was able to, just knowing that subsided that behavior.
Hmm.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah. So, like, Maria, like, are you similar,
Yes.
thinking on that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted that
It's a,
slight little tangent to make sure, 'cause, like somebody was immediately going to be like, well, then what's the point of a psychic reading? You know, but
it is just for guidance. That's all it is. The choice is still theirs, ultimately. Like if someone comes to me and said, well, I am looking at this job, am I going to get this job? And I'm not going to sideswipe it and say, no, but please continue putting out your resume, continue looking for something else. There is a fit, I try to keep hope there all the time. And I try to have them look at that they do have power. Because everybody does. We're more powerful than anything in this world, you know. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to piggyback on that, when somebody comes to me and says, I need to talk to my dad, I need an answer, I need to know what I'm supposed to do. Very rarely, unless it's a very significant uh, reason, most of the time the spirits don't give the direct answer, do this or do that, because we have freedom of choice. The spirit world is not there to make decisions for us. It's
Hmm.
there to give us love, it gives us guidance, and to give us understanding that whatever we choose, they're going to be there to support us and help us through it. But it's our choice. The purpose of life is to make a decision and learn by those decisions. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we've got to make that choice. It's the free will. I think that kind of backs up what Maria said, correct?
Hmm. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now you got a little bit into the don't parts of the ethics of don't do it for entertainment, don't do it just to kill a couple hours on, a Friday night. Are there any other don'ts that you would say goes for the ethics part? Either one of yous.
I personally will not take a client to do a past life regression if they're in the skeptical mind frame where show me what you can do. I will not do it. And I also will not do I will do a one-on-one. I will never ever do a group.
Oh no.
If I have to pull them out because whatever they are seeing or whatever, if I have to pull them out, I need to pull them out, and I need to pull them out in a sequence. So that's the reason why I will never do a group.
Right, because of the cathartic releases. I can
Yes.
I either, there's times where I've done regressions where the person needed to experience the cathartic release and let that energy go. There's other times I've done it from a disassociation standpoint of watching it on a movie screen or in a TV, where just by seeing it and gaining that information, it was enough to release that behavior or that what was holding them back. So for me, I don't always have to make them feel it and go through the emotions, but some people need that. And that's where the intake comes in, because you really have to vet the person very well. You've
Hmm.
got to trust them. They have to trust you. You have to know what they're looking for. And you also have to know what to look out for when you start going into the process. It's not
Hmm.
just a simple process of close your eyes, count to three, be there. there's a lot to it. And my process is different than many others because mine is, I'll start off with a hypnosis session and I'll get somebody comfortable with the hypnotic process and understanding what it's going to feel like, what they're going to experience. And then I have them come back, a week or so later after they're really comfortable with it. And then we could get down into the regressive part of it, because when people are being hypnotized for the first time, the first thought is this the way it's supposed to feel? Is this right? What's going on? And their mind's somewhere else. It's not being focused to the regressive process.
I think it would be a good thing to maybe point out, and I'm sure you two can agree, when you're saying being comfortable and trusting. When I have mentioned hypnosis for customers, clients in the store, and mentioning you two about it, it's like 50-50. Either the customer client is used to it or have been thinking about it, maybe have done one, before, or it's an automatic like, "Oh, no. I don't wanna end up clucking like a chicken. I don't wanna
Yep.
be, running around." And that's where I think there's this misconception that you cannot be hypnotized to do something you wouldn't normally do anyway.
Right.
Yep.
I actually did stage hypnosis for a very short time, and I did it just because I wanted to experience that sector of the business. Okay, I did it more of a for an understanding for myself than anything. Uh, when somebody's in on the stage, they're giving up their free will to be entertainers and have a good time, and they cut loose and they just kind of allow the suggestions to flow. But I will say that I'm not a fan of stage hypnosis because it kind of bastardizes what we do on the clinical side,
Mhm.
because that's what everybody thinks about: clucking like a bird, barking like a dog. And that's not what the clinical side's all about. And I thought by understanding it, I could bridge that gap, but they're two separate
It's
worlds.
two separate. Mhm.
But everybody, when you think about hypnosis, people are either for it, oh yeah, this is great, we're gonna work on our mind and become who we want to be, or they're like, no, I'm not gonna let anybody mess with my mind or change what I'm thinking or change me. And that's not what hypnosis is. Just a tool that lets you be at your at your best and really focus on what you want and move away from the things that have been holding you back. It's a mindset is what it is. And the hypnotherapist is just the person that guides you to control it. You're the one doing the hypnosis. The hypnotist is just the one instructing and guiding you through the process. If you don't want to do it, you could lay there with your eyes closed for an hour and just, you know, um, figure out what's going on and waste your money. But the client is the one being hypnotized. They're the one giving up. They're um, they're following the instructions. They're going through the process. The more they invest, the better the outcome. The hypnotist is just the guide. That's the way I see it.
Now you both write, almost like personal hypnotherapy plans for your clients, right? When they book and say, "I need help with this or that," you're kind of changing some of that verbiage for your client to make sure you are actually helping that individual person
Mhm.
address what they're dealing with or need to overcome.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Scripting. Um,
Yeah.
I I don't use scripts anymore because when I do an intake, we do a lot of talk. We'll talk for an hour, hour and a half, and I'm building my script off of what I've learned from them and the cues that they're giving me. And then I'm also tapping into their spirit guides, who's also giving me some guidances as to what some underlying situations are. So I build my script kind of on the fly for each individual client.
Mhm.
I do the same thing. I used to write scripts in the very beginning. Um, and that is an interview. I have like maybe a 10-minute interview with a client, and then I already know where I'm going to head. But my process of getting them into that trance state more likely will be all the same. but actually pinpointing whatever it is that they came for, the script will be different.
Yes.
And I do rely on, I call in, my guides are there to secure the area because I don't want to have any interference. Like we said before, spirits are always around. So I don't want to have any interference. So my guide's main job is to secure the area. Then I have one of them, the spirit will tell me or direct me, oh, include this, or include this, or include this. I have done, there were two clients, two separate, I have done, and they came in for one thing, and the next thing you know, we're talking about an inner child trauma. And I'm taking them back to that portion. And it was, one of them was weight loss. She couldn't understand why. And we went back to that child. And it was very profound for her. She started crying when she realized that. So I do, and then I had another person, it was confidence. They had no
Yeah.
confidence in themselves. So I had to make the script at a fly also.
Yeah. Well, and when you bring up the weight loss, I
Mhm.
weight loss issue actually starts at birth. Okay. Because everything is ingrained in your mind, and as soon as you come out, you get slapped and you get given to your mother, and you're either given a breast or a bottle. So you realize that feeding makes you warm and happy and fuzzy. It makes you feel loved. And then as you get older, you have a birthday and it's like a celebration. It's like, we'll make you anything we want. So food becomes, oh, it's for celebration. It's not just fuel, it's not just to keep us going. It's something to be celebrated. And then somebody dies. So you're mourning and you have a big buffet. So there's all this food around, and you fall and you skin your knee and you're crying, and somebody says, oh, here, have ice cream cone. And oh, so now food doesn't only nourish me, but it fixes my pain.
Mhm.
So it's no wonder there's such a problem with obesity, or eating disorders, because we're trained at the moment of birth that food is the end all be all to fix every emotional issue in your life. And the way of getting out of that is by reprogramming your brain to understand that food is your fuel.
Mhm.
And I'll tell people, when you fill up your car, if you go to a gas station, you fill up your car, when it clicks off, do you roll down your back window and put extra gas in your back seat? And they're like, no, that doesn't make sense. Well, then why do you do it with food? Because when you're eating and your fuel gauge tells you you're full, why do you keep forcing yourself to eat? Well, it's because many of us have been part of that clean plate club. If you
Mhm.
don't clean your plate, there's going to be a child somewhat million miles away that's going to starve because you didn't clean your plate. So yeah, we're programmed. Those programs is what causes a lot of psychological or physical problems for people. And hypnosis is just a tool that helps you retrain the brain
Mhm.
to think
Mhm.
outside of that.
Now, you touched on the obesity and the overeating. Have either one of you had clients on the other end of that, where they're not eating enough, they're binging and purging,
Yep.
anorexia, bulimia?
Yep.
And do you find one end of that line harder than the other, to really help them reprogram their thinking?
I haven't had a client with that issue yet.
I believe I've had 3 over the years. Um, the behavior goes back to self-worth, confidence, um, taking on other people's persona of what's right and what's wrong, and internalizing that, and them not feeling good about themselves. So for me, in all 3 of my cases, it was about building their self-esteem, building their confidence, getting them away from the physical image of what they thought they should look like, and being more in 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 concert with being healthy and happy. And looks are superficial. Okay, the way you feel is the most important thing. We could always work on looks later. You can do things later, but if you're not healthy and happy mentally, that's where all this physical stuff starts to manifest.
Mm. Because I see a lot of, hypnosis. Usually it's in a group for, overeating, weight loss, right?
Mhm.
But very rarely do you see, hypnosis offered for the other end, the bulimia, the anorexia, and, you know, um, and I think it's more prevalent than people realize, especially in our younger people. Um,
Yeah, it is, and it's very individualistic, though. I think,
mhm,
I'm not a fan of groups. I think group settings are great to open up the channels as far as this is what hypnosis is, this is what it can do. But I think everybody's needs are individual, and
Mhm.
individual sessions are so important, especially when you're talking with anorexia and bulimia. There's underlying situations. It could be sexual abuse. It could be personal trauma. It could be confidence, it, um, self-image issues stemming from a whole plethora of causes. The intake is where you're going to start developing the rapport and uncovering those layers of the onion and getting to the what's causing it. And that's when you can use the hypnosis. Does that make sense?
mhm.
Mhm.
Now, have you had any, just to bring us back to past life stuff, any clients, either one of you, with weight issues, be it over or under, that maybe stem from a past life event?
Not as weight issues. I had fear issues.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fear of like not enough food or not enough, or
No,
being
just
held and
fear of safety, fear of being find out. Um, I had a client who actually took me back to World War II and
mm,
actually witnessed a family member shot in front of them. Describe everything. So because of that, that fear has kind of transcended into this life.
mm,
Yeah. I That's funny that you brought up World War II because I had a lady that was from the concentration camp, and she died. She was emancipated. She starved to death, and in this life she couldn't stop eating. I mean, she would eat anything and everything. And she was a teenager when I met her, and we kind of worked on that, and that curbed that significantly.
mm,
So so I had that issue. I do have a funny, well, I should say funny, but it's a fun story about, and it goes with death and hypnosis.
mhm,
Um, it's actually in my book. Um, and this is where my spirit guides came in, because I had a lady come to me for smoking. She was never smoked. She was healthy. She ran. She was just the epitome of a healthy young woman. And all of a sudden, she started smoking, and smoking a lot. And when we started talking, we realized it actually stemmed from a accident. She was in a car accident. She was unconscious. They rushed her to hospital, and she ended up in a surgical suite. In the room next to her, there was a gentleman that had just passed on, and he actually attached himself to her, and he was a smoker. And when I started this hypnotic process, I had no idea where I was going. I had been trained in spirit depossession by Irene Hickman. So I had the book knowledge. I'd never had the practical knowledge. But immediately my spirit guides, Sarah and Michael, jumped in. They said, "This is where we need to help you." And they guided me through a depossession, and we released him back to the light. And the amazing thing is, when she came out of trance, she grabbed her cigarettes and lighters, she crumpled them up, and she never smoked. I talked to her for several years, and then she moved out to California about 3 years later. But that one session, she went from smoking 2 packs a day to not smoking anything, just by releasing that attachment. So sometimes you never know what you're going to get into.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where death and hypnosis kind of cross. So
Interesting. And I think that just goes to show you don't always know, like with the client, they think they want to talk about this or have that, but like Maria, you've said something else gets to the actual root of the problem that really needs to address it. Um, Now, were there any other don'ts talking on the ethics side of hypnotherapy or past life regression?
well, my big donut is recreation. I'm not going to do it for recreation. I want to do it for the right reasons, and usually I do a lot of talking beforehand. I just had a gentleman this weekend that we put the regression on the back burner, and he's going to start working on journaling and meeting his spirit guides first, because I don't feel at this moment the regression is where he needs to go. I think he needs to build on his spirituality and connect with his spirit guides a little bit stronger. And I think he's going to get the answers from them rather than going back into regression. So I guess that's kind of where my gifts come in. Is I can kind of ascertain whether or not this is the right path for someone, or whether or not we're knocking on the wrong door and we should be doing something else. Hey, Maria, let me ask you, have you ever had any hypnosis uh, clients where you've had attachments, or you've had you've felt things clinging on that were causing the problem, not so much mental, as far as mental programming, but more of spiritual attachments or stuff like that?
Well, it's funny you said that. I had a client. She came in for hypnosis because she didn't understand what was going on with her life. Actually, I don't even know how to classify this. I ended up talking to a spirit. Um, didn't go and did the complete transition. Was part of the 9/11. Told me of what happened and exactly how the buildings, and I'm going, okay, this person came in for something else, and you're taking over the conversation. So I had that where a spirit stepped in, and there was a connection between the person that came in for the hypnosis and the gentleman that did the talking. But I that was it was intriguing. It was interesting. But and when I brought the client back out of trance, I said, "Do you understand what happened?" She said, "Yes, I heard you talking. I heard something coming out of my mouth, but I was out here somewhere else playing." So I'm going, okay, she doesn't know she's a spirit channeler. She's a natural spirit channeler. I'm not going to bang on that door if she's not ready
Yeah.
for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
This might be debated. I have heard both sides of this, but whether or not a client needs to be put through the death of past lives. I've heard some hypnotherapists say, no, we might get up to that point, or, just have the client remember that this happened versus making them relive. Where do you guys fall? Is that on the don't side, where your client does not need to re-experience the death scene of that past life, versus like, no, it's okay, let's go ahead and possibly traumatize them again?
For me, when I've done some regressions for fear-based issues, I have taken people up to the death, but usually when I do that, I do it from a disassociation uh, aspect, where they're able to see it without the emotional connection. Because once they understand where the fear came from, that fear kind of subsides, it goes away. I don't believe they have to relive and re-experience that death. Knowledge is power. You don't need the emotional release at that moment to gain the end result being giving up that behavior or ending that behavior. So most of mine, I think in all the regressions I've done, I think I've only had 3 or 4 that I've taken to their death, because I try to shy away from The death, most of the issues I've seen have been midlife or somewhere within the life cycle that caused the problem, not so much the death or the birth.
For me, all of my past life regression, I do a disassociation. So they're watching this movie, because like you said, and I believe that information is the most powerful thing. So even if I feel that this client really needs to feel a little bit of touch of that emotion, I don't do it. It's always a disassociation. They're watching a movie of their life. So I do get them to the point where at the end of that life, but they're not feeling the emotions. I don't feel it is right. And I'm not going to play God, or any kind of, higher spiritual. It's not right for them to feel the emotions or even the experience. Just have them have the information of what happened, being in the disassociated, standpoint.
Yeah, I don't think a past life regression is supposed to be traumatic. I think it's supposed to be a tool that brings enlightenment, understanding, and brings resolution. I
Mhm.
don't need to go buy a hammer and hit myself to know that it hurts. If I buy a hammer, it's because I know what it can do and I know how to use it. And I view past life regression, well, pretty much anything in the hypnotic world, as a tool, not a traumatic experience.
Mhm.
Now, why don't we get on to some do's? So, what are the good, make sure this happens on the ethics side? And like, what should clients be looking for when they're trying to pick a hypnotherapist?
I think number one, someone you could talk to and feel comfortable with. You have to have somebody that you can have a rapport with, someone that you could trust, someone that's going to listen and be able to offer suggestions. There's got to be a connection. Hypnosis is one thing. Past life regression takes it to the next level, and you have to have a very high level of confidence in the person that's guiding you down that path. So I think first and foremost, if you're going to pick someone, make sure they're trained, make sure they've been doing it, and it's just not something that they learned off of YouTube. But also make sure that you're able to talk to them, whether it be through Skype, Zoom, uh, telephone, or preferably in person, and make sure you can develop a rapport with that person.
I take it the approach of I do no harm. And with any spiritual tools that I use, whether it's energy work, distant work, whatever, hypnosis, past life regression, do no harm. I take the equation of everything out except my heart. I always make sure my heart chakra is completely open, so the energy is open. And that's how I take it in. Yes, the report is very interesting. It's just that it's funny because pranic healing, I was trained not to ask, scan, 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 because what they may think, what they need, you are going to go completely the whole entire. And I have done that. I go the whole.
Yeah.
There's a protocol, there's steps, but either some of them would not be in there, or I would add things to it. So I scan and I scan, and that's what I do. So I pretty much approach, even whether it's clinical hypnotherapy. Past life is a little bit more. I have to really be in there. I have to really be in their energy the whole entire time. When I'm doing energy healing, when I'm doing the reading, I go in and out of the energy. I purposely do that because sometimes the energy might be overwhelming for me. Past life is a little bit different. I'm completely engulfed in that energy because I am completely talking to their guides, that client, my guides. So, and I'm also looking into the energy of what's going on. Oh, where is this going to take us? I was completely surprised when the client took me to World War II. And then once I was in there, I went into the energy of it. So it's a little bit different for me. Interview is great, especially with past hypnosis regression is great. I give it like maybe 10 minutes, but I also rely on the scanning and being completely engulfed in their energy. That's how I approach things.
So people definitely should have a personable hypnotherapist that they should be looking for. Somebody who's taking the time to communicate and know what your issue or issues are that you're really wanting to work on. Um, definitely a personal one-on-one session and not saying, "Hey, just join me next Saturday at, 9 PM for this, group hypnosis, and we're all gonna fix your problems together, you and everybody else in the room." Maybe, hypnotherapists, do you think, that are open to the follow-ups after that, you touch base with them and say, like, "How is this going? How are you feeling a month later, 2 months later? And how are you feeling? How are things working?" Should they look for a hypnotherapist that's willing to follow up? Or should
Mhm.
they initiate that themselves and be like, "Hey, Larry, hope you remember me. I saw you, 3 months ago. I just wanted to touch base."
I like when I'm finished with the process, I tell my clients that they have access to me whenever they need it, but I leave the door open for them to contact me. I don't want to be hounding them and calling them and checking in with them. And most of my clients come, they'll call me, they'll send me an email, and we stay in touch that way. At some point they have to own it.
Mhm,
And I'll guide them down the road, but once we're finished, I want them to own the process, which means that if they want me, they want to talk to me, they need um, additional information or additional help, they know I'm here for them. But I'm not going to be contacting them to try to upcharge them and try to talk them into more services. I think that's up to the client for me.
mhm,
I'm the same way. I give them about maybe a 10 minute after I'm done to get their bearings together for one, because I know some of them really have gone in to that regression and really processing what they have seen in their 3D movie. But I'm talking to them, and I have a card. I give them my card, and I said, if you have questions, if you need to have a little bit of clarity, here's my card. But I will not tell them come back for next month or come back for I won't do that to my past life regression clients. I will not do that to my healing clients.
Mhm.
Everybody has a budget. I understand that everybody have things are priority that they have to take care of. So I always make sure my clients know that. I said, take care of what you need to take care of. We started with them the journey, but they have to finish it.
Right. We've given them the toolbox. It's up
Yeah,
to them to start using the tools.
yeah.
including the hammer
Yep.
that they shouldn't be smacking themselves with.
They want the hammer, then they can.
Now, Larry, you mentioned, how one of your, things that you told us tonight was in your book. So what is your book called?
My friends are real.
They're not imaginary? They're not the
No,
Okay.
no, and I came up with when I started writing my book that name just popped right in. I believe it came right from my spirit guide Sarah, because she's been with me my whole life, and I had more when I was a child. I had more spirit friends than I had actual friends because I was the odd guy, or the odd child. I talked to people. I talked to dead people, and other kids in the neighborhood didn't think that was cool. So I spent a lot of time in my room or at home with my mother, who was very supportive. She didn't understand, but she was very supportive. So when I started writing my story, my friends are real, just seemed to fit.
Mm. Now, where can they get your book besides, Goddess Elite? And if they get it at Goddess, they can get an autograph copy. Where
Yes,
else can they get your
absolutely.
book?
Absolutely. And they can order it from Goddess Elite if somebody wants an autographed copy and they want to do it through Goddess Elite. I can autograph it for them as well, and then it can be shipped out. The other option is through Amazon. If you look up My Friends Are Real book, that's the first thing that pops up.
Nice. So, Maria, when are you gonna put out a book, ma'am?
I ran away from this for a long time. When do you think the book is going to happen? Oh my gosh. Uh, no, no. There's a
No
lot
book.
of ideas, though. No books. There's a
Okay,
lot of ideas, but
just lives in the podcast, and hanging out in the store talking.
oh yeah, that's the fun time. Hang out in the store talking.
Right.
Talking to people, talking to customers, talking to staff, or other practitioners.
Maria's got a free day off of work. She's at Goddess Elite hanging out. I'm like, aren't you sick of seeing us yet? You were just here last Saturday. And you're like, nope.
I will tell you, Maria, if you ever are inclined, writing for me when I was writing my book, as I was reliving all those experiences and that timeline, all of a sudden there was many moments of enlightenment when I realized that certain events were more profound, and the reason for those events lining up the way they were made a lot more sense at where I'm at in my life today. So for me, writing the book was actually not only fun, but there was some therapy in there for me, because it helped me understand my life progression, because I never understood why half the stuff happened in my life other than just bad choices and stuff. But I started realizing as they started lining up, I'm like, wow, there is a correlation here. This is like a quantum stream of and there's purpose behind all of it.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We hope you can join us for the next round discussion table of the Healer's Corner. You can join us every Tuesday, 7 o'clock ish, sometimes a little later, depending on work schedules. And interact with us live and ask questions and learn all sorts of things. Meet new people in a safe community of all the things that we talk about and are interested in. Do either one of you or both of you have any last parting insights on the way out?
Stay
No.
positive and love everyone around you.
My thing is do no harm.
To yourself or other
Yep.
people, for that matter.
Yes.
Yep.
Thoughts, words, and emotions. Emotions is a little bit tricky, though. We're human.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Every
you are always in control of how you react to things.
Yep.
Always.
And everybody in our life has a purpose. It may not be what we want it to be, but everybody has a purpose, and we have to recognize that they're there for a reason. Even the people that are causing us pain, there's something they're teaching us.
Mhm.
Be grateful, which is hard to do sometimes, but
Right. Maybe they're teaching you that you wouldn't look good in orange. So be mindful.
this is red.
I, however, probably would not look good in pumpkin orange. So, you know. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you for
Bye.
having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry.
Yeah. Thanks.